Welcome to the Nurse Life Coach Academy podcast, where Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, talk all about how to get certified and practice professionally as a nurse life coach.
Hey, welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. And today for our Nurse Life Coach Academy episode, I am doing our first ever student interview with our student, Missy Dorsey. And I mean, how many weeks are we in, Missy? We're not in that far.
No,
We're in
a few months, I feel like. We started in August, so yeah. Feels like it's been a year of a really...
It does. It feels like way longer, but I was preparing for our call today thinking, how long has Missy been a nurse coach? And I'm just like in awe of the questions that you ask, the skill that you seem to have. And I forget that you are early in your journey. You're like 90 days into your journey.
Thank you for saying that. That feels good to hear that from you. Thank you.
Yeah. So you were referred by somebody else who we were working with at your organization. And I asked you what your title was, but I'm going to have you say it because it's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, yes. So I am a director of critical care and cardiothoracic and cardiovascular nursing. So what that entails is I have 8 different units that I am a director over, and those being ICU, and then, some of our cardiothoracic, cardiovascular units, all of our inpatient units, and the heart center. So it's a great gig. I am so blessed to be a part of it, and I really do love it.
That's a big girl job.
Yeah, I'm a big girl. Today I'm a big girl. Tomorrow, maybe not so much, but.
So how long have you been in leadership, Missy?
Almost a decade, over a decade, actually. It's been 11 years since I've been in leadership. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see this is the question I'm going to ask you. If with nurse coaching and leadership, do you see a lot of overlap in skill set?
Yes. I think that was the one reason that I felt like, okay, I can do this. I'm ready. I want to try this nurse coach program, is I felt like some of the skill set that I already have built in my career, just by listening to people and talking to them, having compassion for people. It's just kind of what we do every day. And it's very transferable into the nurse coach. And I think that's why it has made me feel so much more comfortable in the program. But yes, it's definitely, they're very similar. Now, the one thing I will say, and you may ask me this later, or might have been one of your questions, is there are differences. And as a leader, I'm an action-oriented person. I like solutions, and people come to me for solutions. I'm a resource for them. So I'm out, most of the time navigating super complex, systems. And with nurse coaching, you kind of have to turn that off. You can ask to provide advice, but I tend not to do that. And I try to do more listening, and more guiding through the conversation, instead of always jumping to an answer, which in itself has taught me a ton already in my leadership. I listen more. I kind of pull from people more. And I think it's really benefited me in my day job, I guess, if you will. So it's been an interesting and good learning opportunity.
Oh my gosh, I bet. Because when you've had a good leader, did you have any good leaders when you in leadership? You had did you have examples of people that did this so well?
Yeah.
Because you can always tell. It's like they seem to be effortless, and yet you feel a part of, you feel valued, you matter. Like you can tell you matter to them. And although they're your boss, you still feel like you're all rowing the boat in the same direction.
Yeah.
And once you've experienced really good leadership, you notice that they're coaching you. They're cultivating you. And then you've had bad leaders probably too. And I've had terrible leadership too, where it's like, you're always in trouble, talking down to you. They're the expert, not right. I bet you're the people that you lead are happy to have you.
I hope so. So yeah, we'll see. No, I think they are, and I think to your point, you're like you have said, you're all kind of on this boat together. And that's what I look at leadership like. We're all in this together, and we all have different jobs. We're rowing in the same direction, but I may be in the front today, but I may be in the back tomorrow. And we all have our strengths. And I feel like that in leadership is so important. And you to be a strong leader, you need your people. I have
Yes.
13 direct downlines, and I could not do my job without them. Now they have,
Yeah.
they have about 100, 50 to 100 each. So 800-ish people then report, through me. And even that big of a team, you all are doing it together. You're all moving in the same direction, whether it's better patient care, better work-life balance, better, whatever it is for the
Right.
community you're serving. And to have a leader who is going to like put on the life jacket or like get the cup because we're starting to sink, as
Yes.
with everybody, I think it's so important. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so incredible. That makes me so happy that you have that many people that you lead.
Yeah.
That gives me like hope in the nursing career. And
I know.
I got to coach, you're the person who referred you, I got to coach, and I know very well, and I love her, and she's a leader in your organization as well. And I'm like, where are you guys growing your leaders over there in Michigan? Because we didn't meet you in California when I was working on the floor. Like there just
Yeah.
wasn't, you guys weren't there. Like I didn't experience that. And so this gives me hope we talk to so many nurses who say leadership's the problem. I hear this all the time. And it's like, it's not that leadership's the problem. Like it's that you're just not all rowing in the boat in the same direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think's been your favorite part? If you've learned skills, you've been coaching for a bit, you've had some private clients. I've seen you in coaching labs. So I trust that you're learning really fast. What has been some of your favorite parts so far?
I think my most favorite part, this is super selfish to say,
Yes,
but
be selfish.
I know, is the personal growth that I just in the last few months that I have been able to get, whether that's working with people in my cohort, and doing our peer coaching, or it's doing coaching labs. It's also coaching people. I learn
Yeah.
every time I coach somebody, and the tools that we are provided, I use those in my life. And just the things that I've been able to accomplish, I think not only has like supported me and supported my family, but it's only going to make me a better coach and a better leader. So honestly, just the personal and I guess professional growth, if you want, has been my most favorite part.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we pour into people, especially if you're like a servant leader, or any of those types of leaders or people that just pour into people. And I feel like most of us are that go into coaching because they like that.
Yes. We
But you
liked
can
it. Yeah.
quickly drain yourself.
Yeah.
And this allows you to give back while giving to other people. And it's such a balance that it feels like you're not forcing anything. It's a very natural balance. And that's been a huge benefit to me, but also, yeah, like one of my most favorite things about it.
That was unexpected for me too.
Yeah.
I always had read self-help books and like been into personal development. So it wasn't like a lot of the concepts weren't totally foreign.
Yeah.
And then you're asked to be vulnerable and you're asked to be honest and you come with what's present for you. And so you can't hide from things maybe that you haven't dealt with, or like your personal weaknesses or my personal weaknesses will be shown to me through who I'm coaching. Like whoever's in front of you will point to like where and you're like, oh, when I get off the call, when I'm done being the coach, I'm going to go be the coachee because I just realized that I'm doing the thing that I'm coaching this person on. Like it's hard to be a hypocrite when you're getting coached every week.
Yes, it is. You are, because you're like, oh yeah, I can see where that goes because I do the same thing. And yeah, exactly. Take note because we need to talk to someone about that.
Yeah. I was talking to a nurse today and she's like, well, what I like about the thought of nurse coaching is that it's going to require me to take care of myself because like I can't be a hypocrite. So therefore, as long as I'm actively coaching, I will be actively made aware of whatever is out of balance in my own life. Whereas there's lots of careers and lots of departments and lots of places in nursing where being completely out of balance, having no boundaries, being burnt out is the culture or it's the badge of honor. Yeah. It's like what's expected. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's there, if you see that where you are. But I remember women bragging about not going out on maternity leave and their water breaking on the floor in the ICU.
Yeah. 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 There is this sense of I'm not working hard enough or I'm
Yeah.
not good enough if I don't X, Y, and Z, which a lot of that
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z is taking away from your outside life. Um,
Yeah.
and so you kind of mentioned earlier how my peer and I are, you know, you said, good leaders, or, that we're
Yeah.
still out there. And I think it's the culture that we've created,
Yeah.
not just me and her, but like all the people that we work with, because we expect like the opposite of that. Like we encourage well-being and support, but we also like it's it's not like you have to take care of yourself. We provide you with support, but then also like require you to take some ownership of that. We're
Yes.
saying, you know what, I didn't take a lunch break today. I took, I took care of my patient for 13 hours because that's what they needed me to do. It's like, no, actually, they didn't need you to do that. They needed you to take care of yourself. And having those conversations, I think, has hopefully changed the bedside nursing to say, like, no, I can take vacation. I can take time away from the bedside. My patients will be okay. Has really helped people with that, like, oh, I have to create this badge of honor for myself and do all the
Yeah.
things that my predecessor or my preceptor said I needed to do. It's a lot of work. And I know there's organizations all over the United States that are doing this, and it takes a long time.
To
It's a
change.
culture change. Yeah, for sure.
Oof. Yeah. Because I never experienced that. I never saw that. I never experienced that. And you're right. You hit on something that I'm not good enough. I wanted to be good. I wanted to be a good
Mhm.
nurse. I wanted to be good enough. I wanted to be worthy of, I started in the ICU as a new grad, and I was pregnant in my first few months. So I really wanted to prove. And that first year left a bad taste in my mouth because it wasn't enough. Like nothing that I did was enough. We were always short and never felt like enough. And so there was like a losing game.
Mhm.
But I could sense that just a little bit of like awareness around like, you have to go take your lunch break.
Yeah.
You have to go take your break.
Mhm.
Um, just a little bit of relief. It would have made it feel more sustainable for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's what we desperately need.
Yeah.
Um, what's been the toughest part? You mentioned like slipping out of expert role, not wanting to have all the answers. Like, I think that's hard for a lot of
Yeah.
nurses.
Yeah.
Anything else you've noticed that's been more difficult or that's an edge for you in your learning?
Yeah, I think just having like taking your ego out of it. I think I've been a leader for a long time and I feel like I'm good at what I do. Now, I have so much to learn and every day I make mistakes and I learn from those mistakes. So don't get me wrong, like I am constantly growing, but you go from being an expert in something to being a novice. And I am a novice as a coach, and I
Yeah.
think even though I've had this experience as a leader and talk to people all the time, it's different. And I think that piece for me, and I have a spirituality that helps me usually before I start a call, and I'll say a prayer, and I always ask for like God to help take away my ego, because I believe that that is one of the things that can hinder us from helping our client is when we have to think through what we're going to say next, or we can't sound dumb, or we can't.
Oh, yeah.
And if you are like searching your questions and you're not listening because you're afraid you're going to sound silly or you're not going to know, that to me has been like the scariest and the hardest part. But the more I practice it, the better it feels.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Ooh, well said. That's so well said. So in deep coaching, we call that releasing our agenda
Mhm.
and living our spiritual values. So that's what you just described as like a practice in deep coaching. So
Yeah.
what is our spiritual values? Well, you don't have to be religious, or you can
Yeah.
be right, like it's across the board, but mine is faith, love, like unconditional love, like hope. I have my own list. And so if I can be that before the call and channel that before the call, then there's like deep trust that I don't have to have an agenda, that everything will be taken care of between me and this beautiful client, as opposed to, oh, what's the next what's the next question? I really got to get them to hit their goals. Like I'm not going to be a good coach if they don't get the results. And
Yeah.
then you're thinking about yourself and it takes away the healing space in between. That's like a lifelong learning for the coach.
Yeah.
Well said. I agree. That's still one of my edges. I find with nurse coaching, there's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you heard of this?
I've not heard of it. No.
Oh, it's so good. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's, if you guys look it up online, it's what happens when you learn something new. So you learn something new and you go to the peak of Mount Stupid because you're like, I know so much. And like you have the rose-colored glasses,
Yeah.
and then you go down to the valley of despair and you realize you don't know shit.
Yeah.
And you're like,
exactly.
I suck. I don't know what I'm doing. And then you finally climb out to the plateau of sustainability. And this is what happens with anything new. We experience this in nursing school, like your first 6 months on the floor, your first shift solo, like
Yeah.
that's huge. And I feel like in coaching, a lot of times we leave certification still at the peak of Mount Stupid, but the first sign that somebody is coming off of that is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Is just the awareness of I can hold space. I know how to listen, but I can sense that I have so much more capacity as a coach, and I can still sense that I'm really new.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 years in, I had another wave of that as I created this course. I'm like, oh, I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
I'm going to be so much better in 10 years. Like I'm still a novice. And I think that that's awesome. Just to like keep that beginner mindset and that growth mindset. Anything unexpected happen or unexpected thing that came up personally or professionally as a result of the work, of the personal work?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think just from being coached in itself,
Yeah.
I think I've uncovered things that I knew about myself, but you don't give yourself time to really like delve into it. And with coaching, it holds you accountable to delve into those things.
Yeah.
And I think one of those things is we move really fast as a family. So I have a wife and she works
Yeah.
full time. And I have 3 kids. So I have twins that are almost 9 and a almost 6-year old. And we're busy, right? We're doing all the things. We enjoy being busy. We are not like just sit and, whatever, sit on the couch and watch TV. And that was always, it's almost like that badge of honor, like that the misnomer of being like, that's really good, where I felt like this is really good. I'm not lazy because I'm doing all this stuff where my kids are active,
Yeah.
doing all this stuff. So I'm doing really good. And I think what coaching taught me is like, doing really good is a balance in life, and sometimes it's slowing down. And you talk about agreements, we talk about agreements. When we set up a coaching container, it's different than expectations. And I have expectations sometimes with my family. So expectations that the weekend's going to go a certain way,
Yeah.
expectations that the summer is going to go a certain way. And through the coaching and through my peer support, I've been able to recognize that like it needs to be more of an agreement, even with the kids. What do they want the weekend to look like? What do they want the summer to look like? So through all of this, we've been creating a vision board for 2025. It's perfect timing. We
Yeah.
all have our own little goals and stuff like that. We're not quite there yet, but so that's been really the most like unexpected thing. Because when I look, if you were to ask me in June, like how set my life was and how on track it was, I would have been like, oh, we're good, we have the schedule, we have all the things, we do all the things, we get to where we need to get to. But yet now looking back, it's like, wow, I was really misguided in my thought.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, are you an Enneagram 3 by chance?
I've actually never taken it. No,
Okay.
so I need to. I know. I'm a perfectionist, so whatever that is.
Yeah. Well, I'm a 3, and I think my husband's a 3, and it is the achiever. And so,
Yes.
right. So just like your family, we say the Menards move fast. You're like, my family moves fast. It's like, and that's good because society says that's good, and we get things done, and we're not lazy, and we achieve and we create. And the shadow side of that is that we are human beings, not human doings.
Yeah.
And our worth doesn't come from always doing. And so that can hit you like a ton of bricks when it's your family's identity, especially when you have children that may not be in that personality type.
Right. Yes.
Because
exactly.
we're just like, come on, let's go. Come on. And they're just like, oh my gosh, this ain't.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I'll let my daughter and son stay home and play hooky sometimes just to create gray area without any shame.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case, because I don't know, they're not fully developed yet. And I'm just not sure, like if they're really tired, I'm like, cool, stay home today, take a mental health day.
Yeah. Good for you. I need to do more. That's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's easier to do when you work from home also.
Yes.
But that's really interesting. Okay. So that insight, and then how has it affected your marriage at all? Like how is a lot of people report it changes your intimate relationships just because of you're changing so fast.
Yeah, I think it's been great. And Mallory, my wife, is very on board with like the things I propose, like the vision board and getting on board with, goals for our family. And I think it's just connected us better.
Yeah.
We've been able to have conversations. We've had purposeful conversations. So one of my homework assignments, I guess, was that we spend, a good 1 hour uninterrupted time creating what our values are as a family. And that was just good conversation that was very specific to one thing, where if you go out for dinner, you're kind of like, oh, I wonder what the kids are doing. How's this? You can get off track very quickly.
Yeah.
And having something that was like that, I decided that I felt like was going to benefit us, and doing that and going through that just brought us brought us together more. So, oh yeah,
I
I
love
think it's
that.
definitely benefited that.
That's so beautiful. I'm always, we did a couples coaching container. My husband and I led one this summer, and it was a power couples thing. Like, because as a married couple, we're kind of like business owners. Like we're like partners, and like we're partners in lots of different ways. And yet, like in a regular business, you would never go months without like a board meeting. Right. Like you would never,
exactly.
like there's so many decisions that are just made accidentally. And then you bring a tiny bit of intention, and it's like, oh, I didn't even know you felt that way. Or like there's so much more capacity. I love that. Did your peer coach give you that assignment?
Yeah. Yep. I know. Gotta love the peer coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. One last question, because I want to make sure I respect your time here. But in your private coaching with private clients, what has been a particular situation that you've coached around that's been the most difficult, without breaking any confidentiality, obviously?
That's a great question. I think that so one that I've had is about career advancement.
Yeah.
And I think that is like my MO in my day job. Like I love
you're like,
professional
hell
development.
yeah.
I know,
Ready.
like, come on. Yeah. So I think what has made it so difficult is that I've had to turn that like instant want to tell you all the things that I've ever done and I've ever taught anybody and done all this stuff. I know exactly what you need to do. Send me your resume, like, all of that stuff. And I think that's been just the most difficult. But during it, we have one more session left. There are things that they have come to that I would not have come to. So it recognizes the process, and it shows like, okay, even though it was the most difficult, because it's almost like it's like you're expert in,
Yes.
but it got them to a place that I wouldn't have gotten them to if they were sitting in my office and I was giving them advice on how to do these types of things. So again, I think it just shows the benefit of coaching, the benefit of listening to people and guiding them through their own thoughts versus just always having the answer to help people, because serving them is not always the best thing to do for people. And that's continues to just prove itself through these through the private clients.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. So much. That's like me with a nurse coach business. It's so difficult for me, because I consult, because we have different roles. And in your role, you consult, or you mentor. Mentor and consulting is a specific role, but coaching is creating the perfect conditions and circumstances for the human being to lead themselves, to have their own aha, and to like pick the direction, even though you could probably see it from the first 20 minutes. And then the difficult part is holding that, and then trusting that the container and that your coaching process will arrive to the same destination without leading too much.
Yeah.
I agree. That's difficult. That's funny. And did you notice your own, as soon as you knew you were going to coach around, you're like, the excitement that you had?
Yeah.
Like,
because my ego was like, hello, we're doing it. We're going to do it. Like we're going to show this person what we've got. It's like, no, shut up. You do not know.
That's great. I'm going to have that picture of like your ego, just like putting her glasses on. She's like, let's get to work. Yeah. As opposed to the spiritual part of you that's like, we're going to hold all the space that we need. And this is going to be an extraordinary journey. And we're going to find your path. It's going to unfold naturally through this process. Yeah. So for you, it's like putting the reins on and just slowing it down.
Yes.
That's a good insight. Any advice that you have for nurses thinking about certification, but not sure if they want to do it? Because we have a lot of nurses who get really nervous about the commitment and the investment. And I've been doing this for so long. I'm like, really? That's scary, but I know that it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any advice you have for students on the fence? And then how did you come through your decision process?
Yeah, I think honestly, talking to somebody that has done it, I think has been the best thing for me. I actually have somebody that I work with that's going to be in the January cohort.
Yeah.
And I think it was that, and it's that feeling of like, I promise you, you will feel this. And I still feel this, oh, what's it called? Imposter syndrome. Because you will get into a situation and you're like, I shouldn't be doing this. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing, and there's that constant feeling of that. It lessens. And the more you do it, the stronger you get. But I know before I started, I felt that very strongly. And my peer who talked about this program with me, she had talked about nurse coaching a year before this. And said, I think you'd be really good at it. I think you'd like it. And I just was not in the right mindset then. So it took me a full year to kind of get to where I was like, but honestly, Laura, whatever it was, within 3 days, I was like, I'm doing it. I went home. I said, Mallory, can I spend this money? And I start on Monday. And I signed up and I knew it. And I talked to my peer a couple times. I did a little bit of, I guess, investigation for myself. I listened to the podcast. There was no doubt in my mind that it was the right thing to do. I mean, and the investment in itself was an investment in me, because not only are you creating potentially a private business for yourself in a money stream, but you're building yourself up to be a better person and just a more holistic you. And that in itself was worth the money. Now I get to do this hopefully as a business and see what that looks like. And I'm really excited about that. But I think if for any nurse who's on the fence, I think if you are interested, talk to somebody. The work itself, I've said this so many times, there's hours that you put in. You need to devote time, right? Time doesn't feel like going to grad school. I went to grad school and it was gross. You're like, ugh, I got to write a discussion post. This sucks, or like, I got to write this paper. Like every time we had a coaching lab, I was so excited. I looked forward to it. Even if I had been up since 4 o'clock in the morning and it was at 6 to 8 at night, I was looking forward to it. And I always felt so good after. So it's not like that gross homework that you're dreading to do. Even the modules, all of it, it filled my cup as I was doing it. So
agreed. That's a great way to describe it. Yeah, it's work, but it's like good work. It's not
work.
It's not to the top of the to-do list. It actually makes the to-do list feel a little bit more manageable just because you're being coached all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, it'll give you relief. You're going to put in 4 to 5 hours to probably get 8 to 10 hours of relief.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy that you were referred to us. We love having you. I love you and your coworker, like 2 of my favorite humans that I've ever met through nurse coaching. And thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And thanks for doing the program and getting it going. And I believe nurse coaching is going to not to be super like, whatever, but I do think it's going to change nursing for the better.
I do too.
I just think it's what we need for nurses at the bedside, for people that are not at the bedside. I think it's what we need to get to full force. So I'm excited.
I do too. Yay. That makes me so excited.
Yes.
Awesome.
Great.
All right.
Thanks, Laura.